Ladies and gentlemen, too often in life, we get caught up in the noise around us, what people are saying, what they're doing, what they expect from us. We measure ourselves against their timelines, their successes, and their opinions. But here's the truth. If you want to achieve greatness, you cannot build your life on the shaky foundation of other people's approval. You must learn to focus on yourself. And in doing so, you'll shock everyone who doubted you. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean being selfish. It means prioritizing your growth, your vision, and your goals. It means recognizing that your energy is too precious to be wasted on comparison or criticism. Every minute you spend worrying about what someone else is doing is a minute you could have invested in building yourself. Imagine if you took all that energy and redirected it into your own progress. How much stronger, smarter, and more unstoppable would you be? When you focus on yourself, you silence the voices of distraction. You start waking up earlier, working harder, and staying consistent even when nobody is watching. And that's the secret. While others are busy watching, you're busy building. And one day when they look back, they won't even recognize the version of you standing in front of them. They'll be shocked, not because you talked about your plans, but because you proved them with action. Let them gossip, let them underestimate, let them doubt. Their noise is just background music while you write your own masterpiece. Remember, lions don't concern themselves with the opinions of sheep. Winners don't stop to explain their path to those who can't see the vision. You don't owe the world an explanation. You owe yourself results. So focus on your craft, focus on your mindset, focus on your discipline. Every single day, pour into yourself like you're building a legacy because you are. And soon enough, the very people who once dismissed you will have no choice but to respect you. The best revenge is not anger, not words, but undeniable success. When you focus on yourself, when you keep grinding in silence, your results will speak so loudly that no one will be able to ignore them. That is how you shock everyone, by staying true to your path and refusing to quit. So stop chasing validation. Stop explaining yourself. Stop comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel. Focus on your vision, your growth, your destiny. And one day the world will ask you how you did it. When people wake up in the morning, one of the first things they often do is scroll through their phones, comparing their lives with the polished highlights of others. Social media has made it easier than ever to see what someone else has, what someone else is doing, and how successful they appear to be. But here lies the trap. Comparison is the thief of joy. The moment you measure your worth based on another person's timeline, you have already started losing focus on your own journey. The truth is, life was never meant to be a race against others. It was always meant to be a journey of becoming better than you were yesterday. The only person you should be competing with is the version of yourself from the past. Think about it. You cannot control the circumstances someone else was born into. You cannot control the opportunities they've been given or the privileges they might enjoy. But you can control the choices you make today, the effort you put into your goals, and the way you choose to grow. Self-improvement is about taking ownership of your life and focusing on progress instead of comparison. If yesterday you lacked discipline, today you aim for consistency. If yesterday you were afraid to take a step forward, today you gather the courage to move anyway. If yesterday you wasted hours on distractions, today you commit to making better use of your time. Every small victory over the old version of yourself is a sign of growth that cannot be measured by anyone else's success. Comparison will always make you feel either superior or inferior, and both are illusions. When you feel superior, you stop pushing yourself because you think you've already won. When you feel inferior, you begin to doubt your worth and question your ability to achieve. Both of these are traps that steal your focus from self-improvement. The person who grows consistently, who invests in learning, who stays disciplined, and who gets up every time they fall is the person who wins in the long run. The world doesn't reward those who compare the best. It rewards those who improve the most. Growth is silent, personal, and often unnoticed at first, but over time it becomes impossible to ignore. Competing with yourself builds resilience. It forces you to look inward and recognize that your real opponent is not the successful person you see on social media or the colleague who got promoted before you, but the habits, fears, and doubts you carry within. Self-improvement is a daily battle against procrastination, laziness, fear of failure, and lack of belief. Every time you choose to keep moving forward despite obstacles, you have defeated the version of yourself that wanted to give up. That victory is worth more than any external validation. The most powerful transformations happen when you stop chasing other people's pace and start walking at your own rhythm. Someone else might achieve their goals faster, but that does not make your journey meaningless. A tree that takes years to grow roots will eventually stand taller and stronger than a plant that sprouted overnight. In the same way, your growth may be slower, but it is preparing you for something greater than instant results. Patience, discipline, and persistence always create a foundation that comparison cannot destroy. When you wake up tomorrow, ask yourself one simple question: how can I be just a little better than I was yesterday? Can I read one more page, run one more mile, save one more dollar, or take one more step toward my dream? If the answer is yes, then you are moving in the right direction. Over time, these small wins will add up and create a version of yourself that you never imagined possible. And when that day comes, you won't care about comparisons anymore, because you'll realize the only person you were ever meant to compete with was yourself all along. Energy is the most valuable resource you have, and unlike money, once it is spent, you cannot get it back. Every day you wake up with a limited supply of mental, physical, and emotional energy, and the way you choose to use it determines the outcome of your life. Too many people waste that energy worrying about what others are saying, thinking, or doing, instead of channeling it into their own growth and progress. They replay conversations in their head, they wonder why someone doesn't support them, they analyze the success of others, and in doing so, they drain themselves before they even take a single step toward their own goals. The truth is simple: every bit of energy spent on someone else's path is energy stolen from your own. When you start focusing on what others have, you give away control of your own mind. You hand over the steering wheel of your emotions to people who may not even care about your journey. The result is frustration, stress, and exhaustion, because you are carrying a load that was never meant for you. The people you worry about are busy living their lives while you are stuck in a cycle of overthinking. Instead of investing energy into building your skills, improving your mindset, or taking action, you end up standing still, trapped in comparison and distraction. That is why learning to redirect your energy is one of the most powerful choices you can make. Imagine what would happen if all the energy you spent scrolling, gossiping, or complaining was redirected into consistent effort toward your dreams. Imagine if every ounce of frustration over someone else's success was turned into motivation to sharpen your own talents. The same energy that fuels jealousy, doubt, or fear can fuel discipline, creativity, and confidence if you point it in the right direction. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be redirected, and the way you channel it will define the quality of your life. The most successful people in the world are not the ones with the most talent or the most opportunities, but the ones who learned to protect their energy. They understood that the mind has only so much focus each day, and they guarded it like treasure. Instead of wasting time in endless arguments, instead of chasing approval, instead of resenting those who were ahead of them, they poured their energy into learning, working, and building. Over time, this consistent investment created momentum that no distraction could break. Success is not about doing everything. It is about doing the right things with the energy you have. Redirecting energy also means setting boundaries. Not every conversation deserves your response. Not every criticism requires your defense. Not every invitation deserves your acceptance. When you try to please everyone, you scatter your energy into 1,000 directions and weaken your ability to move forward. But when you guard your focus, when you say no to distractions, when you stop chasing after people who don't value your presence, you suddenly find yourself with the strength and clarity to push your own vision forward. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is necessary. The discipline of energy investment also requires awareness of your habits. Pay attention to what drains you and what fuels you. Notice how you feel after spending hours on social media versus how you feel after reading a book or exercising. Notice how gossip and negativity leave you empty, while meaningful work fills you with a sense of progress. The more you align your energy with actions that feed your growth, the more powerful you become. Over time, you realize that your energy is your superpower, and the more wisely you use it, the faster your life transforms. Energy flows where attention goes. If your attention is locked on fear, doubt, and distraction, that is where your energy will settle. But if your attention is directed toward goals, solutions, and consistent improvement, your energy will fuel momentum that carries you to levels you once thought impossible. Every day you have a choice: waste your energy on things that don't matter, or invest it into the vision of who you want to become. The more you choose the second option, the more unstoppable you become. One of the greatest mistakes people make on the journey of growth is believing that they need to announce every step, every plan, and every achievement before it is even solidified. In a world dominated by constant updates and endless sharing, it can be tempting to broadcast your goals for validation. But true growth does not require applause or approval at every stage. True growth requires discipline in silence, the kind of quiet commitment that happens behind the scenes when no one is watching, when there is no recognition, and when the only competition is the voice in your head urging you to keep going. Discipline in silence is powerful because it builds resilience. When you train yourself to work without needing the encouragement of others, you create a self-sustaining engine of progress. You no longer rely on someone else's praise to fuel your effort, nor do you let their doubt discourage your consistency. The strength of your growth is measured not by how many people know about your hustle, but by how long you can keep showing up when no one is clapping. Every great success story was written in private long before it was celebrated in public. Silence also protects your focus. The more you announce your goals, the more you invite distractions, opinions, and criticism. Some people will discourage you, others will doubt you, and many will secretly hope you fail so they can say they were right about you. By keeping your head down and working in silence, you cut out the unnecessary noise and free yourself from the weight of other people's expectations. You don't have to waste energy defending your vision to those who can't see it, because your results will eventually speak for themselves louder than any explanation ever could. There is a quiet strength in consistency. The discipline of showing up every day, even when it's hard, even when no one notices, builds a character that cannot be shaken by failure or criticism. When you practice discipline in silence, you train your mind to focus on effort rather than validation. You learn to value progress over applause, and in doing so, you become unstoppable. Growth is not always visible at first. Just like the roots of a tree grow deep underground before the branches appear above the soil, the silence is where the foundation is laid, and without it, there can be no lasting success. Discipline in silence also teaches patience. In a culture obsessed with instant results, it is easy to believe that if your success is not visible right away, it is not worth pursuing. But real transformation takes time, and silence allows you to embrace the process without rushing for recognition. You don't need to prove your progress every day to the world. You need to prove it to yourself through consistency. Over weeks, months, and years, the silent effort compounds, and suddenly the person who was invisible in the beginning becomes impossible to ignore. Another important aspect of silent discipline is humility. When you focus on the work instead of the spotlight, you remind yourself that growth is not about impressing others, but about becoming the best version of yourself. The world doesn't need your words as much as it needs your example. People may not see the hours you invested, the sacrifices you made, or the nights you spent working while others slept, but they will see the transformation that results from it. And that transformation will carry far more weight than any speech or announcement ever could. The beauty of discipline in silence is that it creates a story that feels like an overnight success to others, but you will know the truth. You will know it was years of quiet dedication, of building habits, of failing and trying again, of working when no one else cared. That is why the loudest statement you will ever make is not a declaration of what you plan to do, but the undeniable evidence of what you have already done. Let your silence build the foundation, let your work create the results, and let your discipline carve a path that will eventually shock everyone who underestimated you. Words are powerful, but they are not nearly as powerful as results. You can tell people what you plan to achieve, you can promise them how hard you will work, and you can even defend yourself against their doubts, but none of that will ever hold as much weight as undeniable transformation. People may dismiss you when you start. They may roll their eyes at your ambitions. They may even laugh at your dreams, but transformation is something they cannot argue with. Progress has a way of silencing critics in a way that words never can. When you begin your journey, it is natural for people to underestimate you. They judge you based on your current state, your past mistakes, or the limitations they believe define you. But they do not see the effort, the sacrifices, or the vision you hold inside. They cannot imagine the strength you will gain from persistence or the growth that comes from discipline. That is why it is not your job to convince them. It is your job to transform so completely that the person you become makes their doubts irrelevant. When you shift from who you were into who you are capable of being, the evidence speaks louder than any argument. Transformation is undeniable because it is visible. A person who once lived in fear but now stands with confidence. A person who once lacked discipline but now thrives with consistency. A person who once dreamed but now has results in hand. these changes cannot be ignored. Critics can argue with your words, but they cannot argue with your growth. They can dismiss your goals, but they cannot dismiss your results. When your life begins to reflect the work you put in, even those who doubted you will have no choice but to respect the transformation. The process of transformation requires patience and resilience because results do not come overnight. At first, it may feel like no one notices the changes you are making. You may question if your effort matters when others still treat you the same way. But transformation is not about immediate recognition. It is about consistent effort that eventually makes the change so obvious that no one can deny it. Over time, your habits reshape your character, your discipline reshapes your results, and your mindset reshapes your reality. The people who doubted you in the beginning will be forced to acknowledge what persistence can achieve. One of the greatest feelings in life is watching people who once underestimated you slowly realize they were wrong. Not because you argued with them, not because you shouted louder, but because your life became proof. When your transformation speaks, it speaks with a volume that echoes beyond their opinions. You no longer need validation because your progress validates itself. The very people who once mocked your effort may begin asking how you did it, and that shift is only possible when you stop trying to prove them wrong with words and instead focus on proving yourself right with action. Transformation also inspires others. While words can motivate, real change sets an example that people cannot ignore. When they see you rise from where you were to where you are now, they begin to believe that their own transformation is possible too. Your results become a living testimony of what dedication, patience, and belief can do. This ripple effect is far more powerful than any speech because it carries the weight of authenticity. People believe transformation because they can see it, they can feel it, and they cannot deny it. The greatest thing about transformation is that it doesn't just silence your critics, it changes you in ways that make their voices irrelevant. Once you experience real growth, once you become stronger, wiser, and more capable, you no longer need to seek approval or argue with doubt. Your results become your shield, your transformation becomes your evidence, and your life becomes your loudest statement. In the end, your progress will say everything that needs to be said without you ever having to speak a word. Focus is one of the most underrated strengths a person can develop, yet it is the foundation of resilience and long-term success. In a world filled with distractions, constant noise, and endless comparisons, most people find themselves pulled in 1,000 directions. They try to do everything, listen to everyone, and chase every opportunity only to end up drained and unfulfilled. But when you learn to direct your focus inward on your growth, your mindset, your habits, you begin to build a resilience that cannot be shaken by circumstances or criticism. Focus turns chaos into clarity, and clarity creates strength. When you focus inward, you stop giving away your power to the outside world. Instead of being controlled by what others think or what situations look like, you anchor yourself in your vision and values. This anchoring builds resilience because it allows you to keep moving forward no matter how many obstacles appear in your path. Life will always throw challenges, but when your mind is steady, when your energy is not scattered, you are able to respond with persistence instead of panic. Focus is the shield that protects your progress from being derailed by distractions. One of the greatest benefits of focus is the way it shapes habits. Habits are the building blocks of resilience, and resilience is what keeps you standing when things get hard. Without focus, habits are inconsistent because your attention is always shifting from one thing to another. But with focus, you create routines that strengthen your discipline. Waking up early, eating right, exercising, practicing your craft, reading, learning, reflecting, these habits build over time and they form the backbone of your growth. Every time you follow through, you prove to yourself that you are capable of staying committed. That proof becomes the fuel for confidence. Confidence does not come from talking about what you want to do. It comes from the evidence of what you have already done. Focus allows you to build that evidence step by step, day by day. The more consistent you are, the more you trust yourself, and the more you trust yourself, the stronger your confidence becomes. This is why people who focus inward seem unstoppable. It is not that they never doubt themselves, but that they have built enough proof through action to silence those doubts. They know they can handle challenges because they have already proven it to themselves in small, consistent ways. Resilience is also developed when you stop being distracted by external noise. People may criticize you, underestimate you, or even discourage you, but when your focus is on growth, their words lose power. You begin to see that criticism is only an opinion, not a fact. You realize that failure is only feedback, not the end of the road. You understand that setbacks are part of the journey, not signs to quit. This perspective is what makes resilience unbreakable. When your mind is fixed on your goals, temporary obstacles become stepping stones and rejection becomes redirection. Focus also helps you conserve energy. Without focus, your energy is scattered into too many areas and you burn out without making real progress. But when you concentrate your effort on what truly matters, every bit of energy compounds into results. It is like using a magnifying glass to direct sunlight on a one point. The concentrated energy becomes powerful enough to ignite fire. In the same way, focused effort creates unstoppable momentum. This momentum strengthens your resilience because once you start seeing progress, you become even more determined to keep going. The ability to stay focused on yourself is what separates those who give up from those who rise above. Resilient people are not those who never struggle. They are the ones who refuse to let struggle distract them from their path. They keep building, they keep showing up, they keep sharpening their habits and mindset until what once seemed impossible becomes their new normal. That is why focus builds resilience. It strengthens you from the inside out, making you less dependent on outside validation and more reliant on your own discipline, mindset, and confidence. With that kind of inner strength, you truly become unstoppable. There is something powerful about success that no explanation, no debate, and no argument can match. When people underestimate you, when they dismiss your potential, or when they quietly expect you to fail, the most effective response is not anger, not trying to convince them otherwise, but proving them wrong through undeniable achievement. Success is the ultimate shock, the kind of transformation that forces even the harshest critics to pause and acknowledge what you have built. Rising so high that you can no longer be ignored is the greatest form of revenge and the greatest form of victory. At the beginning of any journey, doubt is inevitable. People form opinions based on what they see, not on what you are capable of. They may look at your current circumstances and assume you cannot rise above them. They may judge you by your past mistakes and assume your future will look the same. They may measure you by their own limited perspective and assume that because they cannot see the path, it does not exist. But none of that matters because your success is not determined by their vision. It is determined by your persistence, your discipline, and your belief in yourself. The beauty of success is that it cannot be hidden. You can stay silent while you work. You can endure seasons where no one notices your effort. But when success comes, it speaks louder than any announcement. It is undeniable proof of the work you invested, the sacrifices you made, and the resilience you built. Those who doubted you cannot argue with results that are standing right in front of them. They may try to explain it away as luck. They may pretend they always believed in you, but deep inside they will know that you accomplished something they never thought possible. Success shocks people because it defies expectations. The person they once underestimated becomes the person they admire. The one they overlooked becomes the one they cannot ignore. What once seemed impossible becomes a reality that forces them to reevaluate their assumptions. This shock is not just about proving others wrong, it is about proving yourself right. It is about showing yourself that the vision you carried inside, even when no one else believed in it, was worth fighting for. That kind of validation is far more powerful than applause because it comes from within. The path to this kind of success is not easy. It requires seasons of isolation where you put your head down and focus while others are distracted. It requires saying no to shortcuts and yes to discipline. It requires patience when results are not immediate and resilience when setbacks try to derail you. Most people quit before they reach the breakthrough, which is why success shocks so many, because only a few are willing to pay the price to get there. Those who stay consistent, who refuse to give up, are the ones who rise so high that even their silence makes a statement. The shock of success is not about arrogance, it is about transformation. It is not about rubbing your achievements in anyone's face, but about letting your life become a reflection of what dedication can create. Your success is not just for you. It becomes evidence for others that they too can rise above their circumstances. The same people who doubted you may one day be inspired by you. The same ones who question you may one day look up to you. That is the power of undeniable success. It changes not only your life, but also the lives of those who witness it. When you focus on rising instead of arguing, you conserve your energy for what matters. Every moment spent trying to prove yourself to doubters is a moment taken away from building the success that will silence them completely. Let them talk, let them underestimate, let them dismiss. None of it matters when you are committed to reaching heights they never imagined for you. The higher you rise, the louder the silence becomes, because success needs no defense. It is the ultimate shock, the kind that forces everyone, friend or critic, to stop and pay attention